Hi, I'm Scooby, and I wanted to make a video on how to use the Build Making Tool spreadsheet. So you may have already seen that Identity has recently released a video on using this tool. I'm not trying to step on anyone's toes. I just wanted to do my own to sort of add to the things that were discussed there and just go into a bit more detail in what some of these things do. I appreciate when you first see this page, it can be very overwhelming. So I just wanted to sort of hopefully simplify some of this stuff. So the link in the description will take you to this page. If you've got list view on, it may look like this. This is the latest version of the spreadsheet. So for some reason, my Google Drive doesn't allow me to replace this file with a new copy without having to reshare a new link. So if I did it that way, every time a new one's out, I'd have to resend out a link to everybody. So by sharing the folder, I can always make sure that this is the new copy, and then I can just move old versions away. So to use the spreadsheet, we need to make a copy that we can edit. So we can right click, make a copy from here, or if we open, we can do File, Make a Copy. We can choose a name. Let's just call this one Test Build, and I'll make a copy in here. Once it's made our own copy, we'll get to the welcome page. So here we just have some information. There's a change log here with things that have been added or fixed lately. There's a known issues bit down here. This main folder link, that'll take you back to the original folder. So if you already have a copy of this in your own Google Drive, you could use this to see if there's a new version out. Down here, we've got some information on who created this tool. So full disclaimer, I can't take credit for this. This is the hard work of Jin44X. The original was in Japanese. Delta Frost later translated this and updated it to title update 16. I used this all the time, and sadly it wasn't getting any more updates. I looked on Reddit and there was no activity from Delta Frost or Jin. That's when I decided to try and keep this alive myself. So I've only been involved since title update 17. But if we go over to the Build Overview tab, we'll just touch on what this is. So this tab is the sort of output of the builds we create in the main build section. So this is just images to show what pieces we've selected and stats about the build itself. At the top here is criteria that we've picked in the main build section. And this is all just kind of the overview of the damage details, the weapon choices, the build pieces. This is the sort of screen to share. So if you were going to show somebody, hey, this is the build that I'm going to try, this is the build that I'm using right now, this page is kind of designed to be the everything in one place detail section of what we've created. All the magic happens in the main build section. So if we head over here, this is where all the input takes place. So top left, we have the specialization. We can choose any of these. I'm just going to put in gunner, for example. Here we have the primary, secondary, and sidearm weapon selections. So we can choose the type in here. I'll just put MMR in there, for example. We can type over these boxes. So I can just put in here the white def. And then down here we can choose mods. Let's just put a couple of examples in there. And the attribute, minor attribute, is up here. And then we can choose a talent in here. We can do the same with the secondary in this section, and then we can pick a sidearm in here. If it comes up with these little red marks, that means that the choice is now invalid. So this sidearm cannot have these mods. So that's just an indicator that we have to go in here and change these values to something that is possible in game. And just a side note, in game, you can choose the 3 weapons that your specialization will give a damage bonus to. This spreadsheet will always assume that the 3 choices you've made in game are the same as the choices in the spreadsheet. So there's no way to tell the spreadsheet which ones you have or haven't given that bonus to. It's always just going to be the 3 choices that are in here. So that's just something to bear in mind. And down the bottom is the exact same for gear pieces. So we can choose different pieces of gear from these drop downs. We can pick the attributes that we want, and we can type in here if we're looking for something specific that we already know. If it's an exotic piece, obviously they have predefined attributes, so that will overwrite our choices on the left. So here's where we make our choices, and this is kind of a reflection of what we've picked. We can choose talents too. So vigilance is selected here. Obviously we can't put vigilance on the striker's backpack, but if I was to pick a brand bonus backpack or a brand backpack, that would then get that talent choice. And let's just put another attribute on there because we can. So at the bottom here, we can pick our skills. So these are reflected at the top right. Now that's telling me that these are invalid just because these mods do not affect the skill in-game. So I can just go and change these mods. This will tell you what skill tier we're at and some details about the skill stats. We can choose what grade the expertise is for the skill. We can also do the same for our weapons on this drop down, and this will be reflected on the damage numbers, as will all of these choices. So we can pick whether the target has armor or health, in or out of cover, whether we're going for body shots or headshots, whether we're overcharged, and the type of content that we're playing. These details down here are specific to the weapon, so we can choose a secondary or sidearm in this drop down. This would give you things like the crit chance, crit damage. Here you can see your burst and sustained DPS, time to kill elite, that kind of stuff. There's some skills, firepower, and your armor stats, things like that. On the right hand side, we've got a bit more info, like your has protection. Here's some more sort of weapon damage stats. So the bullet damage and the bullet crit damage, these are all standard sort of calculations that a lot of people use. So these are really accurate. If you take them in game and mirror your build in game, as in here, these are almost perfect. There's some rounding differences between how the game handles this and how spreadsheets will handle it. So you may find that they're 1 or 2 off, but they should never be more than like a couple of values out. The bigger these numbers get, the more discrepancy there is between in-game, but this is mainly sort of a almost identical guideline, so it's not going to be 100% all the time. Down here, this is kind of a reflection of what's going on with our build. So we can see here our amp damage from ignited. The thing to bear in mind with this spreadsheet is it's always assuming a perfect scenario. So I've picked ignited as the talent. That's only going to apply if the enemy I'm firing at is on fire. So to apply this 20% amp here, it may not always occur in game. So you just have to kind of bear in mind that this is a perfect scenario. The second line on each of these sections, so you've got an adjusted line here. We can put a different value in here if we want. So I can essentially turn ignited off if I put a 0% in here without having to take the talent off of my build choice. This is handy for stuff like especially striker. So if I go ahead and put some striker's pieces back on here, so that will assume I'm at max stats. So what I can do is just tune this down a little bit. Let's see what my damage looks like when I'm just starting to build stacks, or if I'm a little bit further in. So you can kind of adjust this just to see what things are like at different scenarios, but by default this is always going to be at its very best. This is especially prominent for stuff like Future Perfect. It's always going to show all the skill tiers gained from that, which obviously isn't always going to be the case when you're actually playing. In this part here, these are your skill choices. So I've only just started to kind of tweak with this. So Striker Shield, actually, that's going to be an invalid choice because we're not on Firewall anymore. But if I go back to Firewall to show this, so if I turn this on, it's going to account for any bonuses added by my skill. With my current skill tier with this shield and the mods on it, this is going to give me a 12.2 additional amp multiplier. So that's kind of a way of seeing any extra bonuses from here. At the moment, it's only the Striker Shield and the Kiddies Pulse that do this. I don't think there's many other things that will add one of these values. I think the Overcharged Pulse does, but I haven't really looked too far into it yet. I've only just started to play with that. right at the bottom here, these blue ones, these are sort of like team buffs. So if a teammate is giving me hollow point ammo, I can see what my damage looks like with that. If another teammate is giving me a coyote range buff, medium, I can give myself the crit stats from that. So this is kind of what do things look like when I have teammates giving me extras. I don't normally play with that too much, but it's up to you if you want to see what your build looks like with these stats. And that's pretty much it for this tab. So let's head on to the weapon talents. This is kind of in its really early stages. I only made these weapon and gear talent pages because I had to keep going to other resources to find out this stuff. And when I was creating builds, I kind of wanted everything in one place. Obviously, it's far from that at the moment, but this is like a very early stages, quick reference to what talent choices actually do. Because obviously you can see them in the list, but without coming somewhere else, you can't see what those things actually do. I mean, I've actually noticed that a couple of talents are missing. Obviously, there's no perfect versions of weapon talents yet, so this is still very early stages. Similar story for the gear talents, so we can minimize that to just skip to chest, and then there's gear set under that and exotics at the bottom. The brand list tab is, as you'd expect, just what brands are available and what the actual choices do. That's pretty much it for the tool. If you've made it this far, I appreciate you watching. Thanks a lot. If I go back to the main build, there's just a couple more things that I think are worth explaining. So up here, we've got like a damage conversion. So we've all seen negative damage in game. What we can do here is just put that number in, and that will tell us what the actual damage number is. That's just a handy little tool if you wanted to know just how much your negative damage was actually. And then just one last thing I think is worth giving a mention to. If you're like me and you have a lot of these saved, so I like to have in my main account one of these for each build that I'm farming for or that I'm using in game. Sometimes I like to come back to them for reference. So if you actually hide the welcome page, that will update Google Sheets to show you the first available page, which is the build overview, as the preview window. And I find that really handy in here when you want to see all the builds together. You can see all of them in the preview window, and that gives you like a snapshot. You don't have to go into each of these to see what they are. But yeah, I think that's all I can think of covering for now. I'm sure I've missed some. I'm sure as soon as I hit stop record, I'm going to think there's 10 more things I should have mentioned. But if you've got any questions, please do let me know. If there's anything wrong with the spreadsheet that you spot, any things that look wrong, just give me a shout on YouTube. You can leave a comment, or if you want to drop me a message on Reddit, my page is on the welcome page in the spreadsheet. Yeah, I think that's everything. So thanks a lot. Thanks for watching, and bye bye.